Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu arrived at the White House for an urgent high-priority summit with President Donald Trump. This meeting, which was originally scheduled for next week, was moved forward by 7 days following the conclusion of the Oman Channel talks between US envoys and Iranian officials. Netanyahu asserts that any diplomatic framework established by US Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner must be expanded to include the total dismantling of Iran's ballistic missile program, a condition that Tehran currently labels a non-starter. Simultaneously, the two leaders are finalizing the transition to Phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan. President Trump signaled a dual-track strategy this morning, stating that while a deal is on the table, he is weighing the deployment of a second aircraft carrier strike group to the Persian Gulf to compel Iranian compliance. Netanyahu contends that Iran is utilizing the diplomatic window to reconstitute its Ring of Fire proxy network. The meeting today focuses on two non-negotiable pillars: a zero enrichment status for Iran and the formal transfer of Gaza's administration to a technocratic body. This meeting signifies a structural overhaul of Middle Eastern power dynamics under the maximum pressure 2.0 doctrine. The stakes involve three critical dimensions. Washington demands a permanent decommissioning of centrifuges at Fordow and Natanz. Netanyahu asserts that Iranian delivery systems, specifically intercontinental ballistic missiles, are the primary threat to Israeli sovereignty. The White House has hinted at precision strikes using B-2 bombers on missile production facilities if these assets are not part of the final agreement. The transition from military operations to technocratic governance is the priority for Gaza's future. The National Committee for the Administration of Gaza, NCAG, which is led by Dr. Ali Sha'ath, is slated to replace Hamas's civil functions. This body operates under the Board of Peace, a multilateral body involving the US, Israel, and regional partners, ensuring that reconstruction funds, totaling billions, do not facilitate a military reconstitution of Hamas. The US is utilizing secondary sanctions as an economic weapon. The administration has signaled a 25% tariff on imports from any nation, including major global economies, that continues to purchase Iranian petroleum above a specified survival floor. This is intended to bankrupt the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, before they can reach nuclear breakout capacity. Advocates for the peace through strength approach argue that Iran's domestic economic instability, which is fueled by ongoing protests and a collapsing rial, presents a narrow window to secure a nuclear-free Middle East. They contend that including ballistic missiles in the talks is essential because nuclear restrictions are ineffective if the delivery systems remain intact. This side maintains that only a credible military threat will bring Tehran to a meaningful agreement. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi maintains that uranium enrichment is an inalienable right and that missile production is non-negotiable for national defense. Tehran characterizes Netanyahu as a saboteur of regional peace. Critics of the Trump-Netanyahu alignment argue that the demand for zero enrichment is a recipe for diplomatic failure, which is potentially backed by a desire to provoke a regime-changing conflict. Analysts from the Council on Foreign Relations suggest that Trump is using transactional brinkmanship. Experts note that while Trump seeks a historic grand bargain to cement his foreign policy legacy, Netanyahu's goal is to ensure the US remains committed to military action should Iran reach breakout capacity. They observe that the true red line for the US is nuclear acquisition, whereas for Israel, it is the continued existence of Iran's regional proxy infrastructure. Today marks the sixth meeting between Netanyahu and Trump since the second Trump administration took office. The current tension follows the 12-day war of summer 2025, which saw significant aerial exchanges between Israel and Iran. In November 2025, Iran restricted IAEA inspections following a censure resolution, leading to the current US naval buildup led by the USS Abraham Lincoln. In Gaza, the Phase 1 ceasefire has largely been held since late 2025, following the return of all living hostages. However, the presence of Hamas remnants in the southern tunnels remains the primary obstacle to the deployment of the International Stabilization Force, ISF, which is commanded by Major General Jasper Jeffers. The NCAG's formation in January 2026 was the first step towards civilian-led governance, but today's summit is the first time the specific disarmament triggers for Gaza have been codified into a formal US-Israel agreement. The results of today's talks will likely lead to global shifts. First of all, Iran may accept zero enrichment and missile limits in exchange for tariff relief. This may bring a historic drop in global oil prices and the launch of the Gaza Marshall Plan. Secondly, the negotiations may collapse and Iran moves toward 90% uranium enrichment. US and Israel will be forced to launch precision strikes on nuclear sites, while Iran attempts to blockade the Strait of Hormuz. And thirdly, this may also bring GAA stabilization. Both sides may differ on the Iran issue, but activate the Gaza Phase 2 governing body. So, Hamas will be declared civilly extinct and an Arab-led security force enters Gaza to begin the reconstruction phase.